Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're taking a deep dive into the true architecture of authority and transforming your communication from that nervous corporate noise into a commanding presence. We're looking at a framework that proves leadership begins with your voice long before your actions or your results even come into play. So if you feel like your ideas are getting lost in the shuffle, or, if you feel like you're speaking just to be heard rather than actually understood, well, you are in exactly the right place.
We're going to plan this by points, breaking down a definitive 5-step blueprint to strip away those weak habits and build a disciplined, intentional voice. We'll be hitting the power of restraint, eliminating weak words, controlling your tone, mastering the speed of leadership, and finally, using silence as leverage.
Point number 1, the power of restraint. Say less, mean more.
Let's tackle the disease of over-explaining first. There is such a stark contrast between an amateur who just talks out of panic and a true leader who treats every single sentence like a concise military briefing. Think about speaking to be heard. This is where most people live, right? They over-explain because they lack confidence in their own decisions, so they end up just throwing words at a problem and hoping something sticks. All that does is add clutter. But speaking to be understood, that's entirely different. Leaders choose discipline over impulse. Every word earns its place because clarity creates direction and eliminates the uncertainty that totally destroys momentum.
I really want you to anchor yourself to this rhythmic refrain. Say less, mean more. Literally, stop explaining yourself to death and choose brutal simplicity. If someone doubts your decision, adding a dozen more words won't fix it. Your confidence will. You absolutely do not need to justify every single passing thought. Moving on to point 2, eliminating weak words. Trash the jargon.
This concept of restraint builds directly into the vocabulary you use every day. Because honestly, you lose authority not in those big, dramatic moments, but in tiny, casual sentences. Let's just briefly poke fun at that totally relatable, nervous corporate babble. How often have you heard, or let's be honest, said, so I was thinking maybe we could try, if that's okay? Every time you use these softeners, you're broadcasting insecurity. I think tells the room you're unsure. Maybe we should signals hesitation. And just wanted to, that's basically an apology for taking up space. We need to take these weak, apologizing softeners and physically throw them in the trash. This kind of weak language is just undisciplined thinking leaking out through your words.
By removing this unconscious hesitation, you completely stop asking for permission and start signaling absolute certainty. Imagine a mid-level manager pitching an idea by saying, "I think maybe we could adjust the process." He usually gets ignored, right? But when he walks in and simply says, "Here is the plan to adjust the process," leadership responds instantly. He didn't magically become smarter, he became stronger. It's clear, it's direct, it is absolute.
Point 3, controlling your tone. Emotional discipline.
Now, your freshly upgraded vocabulary means absolutely zero if your tone betrays panic. People judge your emotional stability through your tone, way before they even process the actual words you're saying. Think about a chaotic tone. Fast pace, rising volume, those weird emotional spikes. It screams that you're insecure, uncertain, and losing control. A loud person honestly just looks desperate. But the leader's tone, it's completely different. It's built on pace breathing, a deliberately dropped volume, and a perfectly even delivery. Someone with a low, steady voice instantly looks dominant and grounded. If you ever struggle with this, here's a super actionable toolkit for you. For the next 24 hours, try using this exact 60-second reset exercise whenever you feel your voice shaking or rising under pressure. Step 1. Inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds. Step 2. Actively lower your volume by 10% and slow your pace by 20%. And finally, Step 3. Deliver your next sentence calmly. Because when you calm your tone, you calm your mind, and when you calm your mind, you control the room.
Keep this in mind. Calm is power. Calm is clarity. Calm is strength under pressure. Dropping your volume mirrors the calm, elite presence of a special forces officer or a top-tier diplomat. They respond with pure strength instead of reacting with messy emotion. A great diplomat never raises their voice. They speak like still water. It clearly communicates, "You cannot shake me."
Point 4, the speed of leadership. Pace dictates presence. All right, so now we must master pure physical delivery. Fast talkers sound scared, like they're desperately trying to outrun their own thoughts. When you speak at the speed of anxiety, you're rushing because you're terrified someone is going to interrupt you. That means you're reacting, not leading. Conversely, speaking at the speed of power literally forces the entire room to adapt to your pace. Slowing down proves to everyone that you are deeply comfortable with the attention and the responsibility.
Slow is strong. Slow is certain. Slow is leadership. Take dramatic, intentional pauses when you speak to actually embody this kind of pacing. By slowing down, you instantly sound more prepared and significantly more intelligent. You do not need to rush just because someone else in the room is rushing. Make them come into your pace.
And finally, point 5, silence as leverage, the absence of sound.
This brings us to what is easily the most terrifying tool for amateurs and the absolute most powerful weapon for leaders. Silence is not some awkward, empty space that you need to nervously fill. It is pure psychological leverage. It forces the truth to surface, and it forces others to reveal their actual intentions. Think about a high-stakes job interview. When a candidate asks for a $140K to $160K salary and then just stops talking, they almost always win the negotiation. They let that uncomfortable silence do the heavy lifting, essentially forcing the other side to fold first. To really hold your ground in these moments, try integrating these 3 steps into your daily interactions. First, pause for a full 2 seconds before answering any question. Second, state your decision and then stop talking entirely. Third, just hold eye contact in silence during any sort of challenge. You have to understand that you do not need anyone's validation to stay quiet when challenged. People who crumble in silence just surrender their leverage.
Silence is not empty. Silence is leverage. The person who rushes to break the silence usually surrenders their power. Really let that sit with you for a second. You can either negotiate like someone begging, filling every little gap with justification, or you can state your terms and sit in silence like someone who completely knows their absolute worth. So let's bring this all together. By adhering to this brutal simplicity, point by point, you can transform your everyday voice into an authoritative standard that shapes the culture of literally every room you enter. Exercise restraint. Eliminate those weak softeners. Command your tone so it remains even and low. Slow your pace to the true speed of leadership. And finally, weaponize silence.
I want to leave you with this final provocative choice to think about. Will you speak to be liked, or will you speak to lead? Because if your goal is just to be liked, you're going to overtalk, over-apologize, and over-explain. But if your goal is to lead, you have to stop seeking approval and start communicating with absolute, unwavering purpose. Your voice is the standard. It's time to lead with it. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.